couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the idea of having templates and slots, and if there was a different way of just looking at shapes and how we could use shapes. And we didn't necessarily get all the way through the demo, but I've done a little bit more work on it. Originally I did it for Razor. So the idea was to kind of make the tag helpers a little bit more, feel a little bit more like a component that you might use in Vue or something similar to that, where you were able to actually describe in HTML what you wanted to happen to the shape that you were rendering. So I had a little bit more time to work on it, not a heck of a lot. So I wrote the liquid version just to see what it would look like. And this is the liquid version here, which it still has a few problems. But I had to introduce a shape block, which is not good because we already have a shape in liquid. And the trick is to try and do this without breaking everything. But the idea is you have a shape block, which can then render stuff into templates. We have slots again, which we talked about. And then I was just doing some experimentation to see whether or not we could make these blocks take the expressions that we already have to make alterations to shapes, which does work, but because of, and you might be able to help me here a little bit with the fluid side of it, Sebastian, I need an expression to pass into, so I'm just having to this because it expects an expression first and then an argument. So let me just prove that this actually works. Oh, change things. Nope, this is definitely not the site for it. Let's have a look at this other site. Okay, so there we go. So that's what the kind of template ends up looking like for in your actual content type, and then this is what the header shape ends up looking like here, where you've got just liquid expressions in this case, or liquid tags in this case, to render the slots out in the places that you want them to be at. So that's kind of where I was at with that one. It's just a little bit of work in progress, really, to see if there's something that's worth doing here.
Yeah, trying to remember the goals and what I'm seeing. So here we are just saying
so this is very different probably to the conversation that we had, but it also leads on to it.
Yeah, so here you're saying that I want to render a custom blog template, okay, so content-blog, and here you want to reuse, and that is a header component, and you want to customize it across different pages because the header is the same everywhere, but with some subtle differences. So here you made a component for the header, and you are using a shape for that, a shape component for header, and to be able to customize different slots in the component. Where do you pick the name slot from? Angular?
That actually came from Web Components. and I'm not sure if it will stick, because I need to make sure that it won't interfere if you're also trying to use web components on the page. It won't be a problem in Liquid here, but in the Razor version, it has more potential to it.
Okay, so this is a reusable component. It's a shape, a reusable component. And it's a shape without, it's a shape that you created with templates and that is not coming from a driver or whatever. It's just, I want to create a component and reuse it.
I want to create a component and reuse it. Now, if we were to take this into the kind of conversation that we had a while ago, you might end up changing this entire template to have no shapes.
Apple. Yeah, it's different.
Where we've just delivered a just the JSON of a content item, and you might, instead of actually having a model.content property which a driver has built up, you might have data. Maybe it's data, maybe it's model. And this would call into, at this point, this would call into the driver and grab the part. Rather than rendering, or rather than pre-building all of these and then displaying this one, removing other ones. Just be a bit more specific about what you want, because they aren't all there for you. So it gets, for me, it kind of gets the feeling of templates or templating. It looks a lot more like HTML, and I ran this past one of my Vue guys who doesn't use Orchard at all, and he kind of looked at it, went, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like I can see what it's doing there. A lot easier whenever I talk to him about a shape, he's like, what's that?
My point is more about if we didn't even shapes, if we didn't even have shapes or components, it will be even more easier, because just HTML. Give me the data and I will render the HTML. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that would be the other option, but then you get something like
yeah, and that's why components, I think, are great, because they can encapsulate some logic and of whatever level you want. So I like components. I'd rather have like a content item component, exactly, and you pass how you load it, and then you can provide a template into it, or I get it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit for the future, because we did talk about this for Orchard too, didn't we?
Yeah, and I want also to talk about it to the MVC devs, if there is something they can provide for us. Like, they have Vue components. They try to make Vue components in MVC core, and apparently they're not satisfied with that. I want to understand what it is. If it is the same thing, like a Vue component cannot be templated. And then if they could do that, we could use Vue components to provide custom logic that have custom logic, and then use this Vue component with IntelliSense and everything to access all the data in templates. I want to see that.
Yeah, okay. I think that's worth having a look at. I probably will have a chat with you further about this the slots thing, because I that's not a breaking change or anything, so might see about a PR for that.
Okay.
Because I think it's useful. I think it's nice.
And maybe that's the way to go for further continuation on this feature.
Yeah, I don't want to introduce this kind of concept at this point. It's just for ideas for the future.
Only thing is that there is no MVC IntelliSense, and that's kind of sad. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get some of
Good.
the nice stuff out of
Blazor has that, and so it's doable, but maybe there is a bridge between Blazor and MVC for these kind of components.
Yeah, because the laser is looking very much like some of this. So more to look at.
Okay, thanks a lot. Awesome.